On this episode of China Uncensored, a new report says everything in China is great. Hi, welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The Chinese Communist Party is waging an all-out war to make you love them. And you'd better start loving the CCP, or else. This war of love is not fought by soldiers giving out free hugs. It's waged with money and influence, forming a complex web involving policymakers, think tanks, and media companies around the world, including right here in the United States. The CCP's aim is to make influential people and organizations love them. And then all the love will sort of trickle down to you, the average American. The spider at the center of this web of communist love is the United Front Work Department. What is the United Front Work Department, you ask? Well, according to its executive deputy head, the United Front is the political coalition of all parties, all walks of life, all ethnic groups, and all associations. Or to put it another way, the United Front is the CCP's political coalition of everything that's not the CCP, which exists in order to support the CCP. It's a little hard to describe because there's simply nothing like it in the West. It's not a government organ or an NGO. It's a top-level branch of the Chinese Communist Party itself. The goal of the United Front is to win hearts and minds, both in China and overseas, getting everyone to see things with the CCP's perspective. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. The Financial Times managed to get a training manual that's issued to United Front cadres. It talks about the need to battle enemy forces abroad that are against China's rise. But don't worry, the United Front is a big magic weapon that can get rid of all these problems. And when I say all the problems, I mean that the United Front is involved in everything from making sure that all religions in China love the CCP, to making sure that 60 million overseas Chinese love the CCP, to making sure that foreigners who learn about China love, well, you get the point. Imagine it like this. Say you wanted to get Connie to go with you to prom. But if you had a United Front Work Department, you wouldn't just ask Connie, because she's waiting for Chad to ask her out. But don't worry, your United Front workers would be making friends with all her friends, paying a reporter at the school paper to write a glowing feature on you, even getting the cheerleaders to chant your name at the next football game, all with the goal of convincing Connie that you're the greatest guy at Palm Desert High. And if all that's not enough to convince Connie to go out with you, well, just hire some thugs to beat up those enemy forces abroad, aka Chad. The United Front Work Department is a fascinating, shadowy organization that we can't cover in just one episode. So let's take a look at one small example of the work they do via a recent investigation by Foreign Policy magazine. This is Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. It's one of the top international relations schools in the U.S. Its graduates fill the ranks of the next generation of American leaders, from the State Department to the CIA to the military. And the white papers they put out serve as the basis for a lot of the mainstream media reports you see about China. In 2016, they announced the Pacific Community Initiative. According to the school's announcement, it will examine what China's broader role in Asia and the world means for its neighbors. And you know what? I'm guessing the white paper it puts out will be all about how great China would be as a prom date. Because where is the School of Advanced International Studies getting the money for its new initiative? Why, from the China-United States Exchange Foundation. That group is registered as a foreign agent with the U.S. Department of Justice under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Partially because it was founded and funded by Tung Chee-hwa, who currently serves as the vice chairman of one of the United Front's most important entities, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. That's a political advisory body made of people the CCP wants to keep in close orbit. Members range from the CCP's fake Panchen Lama to action star who thinks Chinese people need to be controlled, Jackie Chan. In addition to being the vice chairman of the CPPCC, Tung Chee-hwa was also the first chief executive of Hong Kong after the end of British rule. He got that position because of his close relationship with former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin. And because he said things like, freedom is not unimportant, but the West just doesn't understand Chinese culture. It is time to reaffirm who we are. Individual rights are not as important as order in our society. So really, what do you think research paid for by this guy and the United Front will say about what China's broader role in Asia and the world means for its neighbors? Maybe China's got the right idea, taking away individual freedom for the sake of social harmony. The Pacific Community Initiative, by the way, comes with a professorship that's also paid for and, in fact, named after Teng Chihua. This isn't the first time Teng Chihua's China-United States Exchange Foundation has worked to influence American organizations. In fact, it has cooperated on projects with numerous U.S. institutions, including the Brookings Institution, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the Atlantic Council, the Center for American Progress, the East-West Institute, the Carter Center, and the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. Those are influential organizations that have a real impact on U.S. policymaking. Maybe they shouldn't be working with an organization designated a foreign agent whose sole purpose is to influence a positive relationship between the U.S. and China. Don't worry, though. The China-United States Exchange Foundation denies that it has any ties to the United Front. That makes me feel a lot better. As does the fact that the China-United States Exchange Foundation also worked with the Communist Party's People's Liberation Army. In particular, the Sanya Initiative. They had this great idea to get retired U.S. and Chinese high-ranking military leaders together to, just kind of hang out, pose for awkward photos, and give each other dishware from Williams-Sonoma. And also, back in 2008, they wanted to encourage the U.S. veterans to convince the Pentagon to delay publishing a report about China's aggressive military buildup. And get this, the U.S. veterans actually tried. The Pentagon just rejected their request. The China-United States Exchange Foundation is also actively involved in influencing U.S. politics. In 2016, they hired the Podesta Group, whose co-founder was Hillary Clinton's former campaign manager, and spent almost $700,000 lobbying Congress about China-U.S. relations. And this year, they spent about $500,000 on lobbying. At the recent Chinese Communist Party Congress held in October, Chinese leader Xi Jinping called the United Front the Communist Party's magic weapon. Sound familiar? Why, Xi Jinping himself is the head of the United Front small leading group. He was appointed by himself. And as much as Xi Jinping would like to use the United Front to build a better image for himself internationally, this is part of a much larger political battle happening inside of China. During the party congress this year, Xi appointed his guy, Yeo Chuan, as the new head of the United Front Work Department. One of the former heads, Ling Jihua, was a part of Jiang Zemin's political faction. Ling Jihua is currently serving a life sentence for corruption and was accused of plotting a coup against Xi Jinping. So, putting his own guy in charge and getting more closely involved with the United Front means that Xi Jinping sees the United Front as a key part of changing China's role in the world, and it's another sign that he's continuing to lock down his power struggle against Jiang. Now, remember Teng Chihua, who founded the China-United States Exchange Foundation? Like I said before, he's closely tied to Jiang Zemin too. So now that Xi is taking charge of the United Front, how will Teng fit into the picture? We'll have to wait and see. Well, one thing is certain. The groups his foundation is funding probably aren't going to come out with any research critical of the Chinese communist regime, regardless of who's in charge. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. You know why China Uncensored delivers hard-hitting China news? Because we don't take funding from the United Front. We get it from viewers like you. Take a moment to visit the website patreon.com/China Uncensored, where you can contribute $1 or more per episode. Help keep China uncensored.